Bam! It's Dogfight time. How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of the dogfight battle between the HTC One S and the Samsung Galaxy Nexus. First, though, some love to Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with phones like this, and like all the phones you probably see laying around on my desk for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you won't deal with rebates. You'll walk out the door paying the after rebate price. I hate rebates. I hate paperwork, which you wouldn't realize it by the amount of paperwork that's actually on my desk, but I really do hate it. At Best Buy Mobile, you won't have to deal with paperwork. Enough of that, let's do it. Part 2, One S, Galaxy Nexus. It's dogfight time. Let's take a look. Part 2 of this dogfight battle, let's just start out by taking a look at some of the speed tests. We'll start out with quadrant standard, and then we'll jump into the browser from there, assuming I remember that I said we were going to jump in the browser. All bets are off. You never know with me. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't had enough coffee today. You never quite know. Let's talk a little bit about call quality on both of these, though. They're both pretty decent. The call quality is nice and loud. The speaker, for my deaf ears, I can hear out of the earpiece reasonably well. And speakerphone, I give a slight edge on speakerphone to the One S, but it's relatively decent on both. Where it is a little bit different battery life. You got a 1,650 milliamp hour non-removable battery over here, and you have a 1,750 milliamp hour removable battery on the Galaxy Nexus. Now, you can get an extended option through some select retailers. I believe Negri Electronics was selling it for a while. NegriElectronics.com, N-E-G-R-I. It's a 2,000 milliamp hour battery, and it does add a little bit of bulk to the back, but overall, gives you some pretty decent longevity. Now, I'm going to spoil it for you. Obviously, on quadrant standard, this one's going to come out a little bit ahead. It's got a dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU. This one has a TI OMAP processor, a little bit older. It's clocked a little bit slower. That's something to keep in mind when you look in between these two devices. But again, it's definitely a hardware versus a software battle here. And my theory with this has got the hardware. You can't really upgrade hardware on a device unless you're like overclocking it or you're rooting it, doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, I guess you can kind of theoretically, overclock, and that could be considered upgrading. But outside of that, to me, this is most likely going to get Jelly Bean. So, when you look at it like from a hardware versus software perspective, you can get Jelly Bean on this most likely in the next couple of months. That said, this has Jelly Bean now, and I'm as much of an instant gratification person as the next tech guy, so it's nice to be able to get it out of the gate right away, and the improvements to Jelly Bean are very nice. We'll talk about Google Now in just a bit. Quadrant standard here, 4,455, 2,240 over here. And before I jump out of this, let me finish what I was saying about battery life. Standby time's pretty impressive on the One S. I do notice that it takes its toll whenever you are, talking on a regular basis, surfing the web. When you're actually using the device, it goes down pretty quickly. But standby time's pretty decent. Over here, it's kind of decent across the board. I'd say with moderate use, I get anywhere from about 8 to 11 hours, depending on what your definition of moderate use is and what my definition of moderate use is that day. So, about the same. I will say standby time's better over here. I would give a slight edge in actual use time to the Galaxy Nexus. So a little bit different depending on what you do with your device. If you're at work, you don't use it a whole lot, you rely on that standby time, this could be a good option for you. Then again, you can just pull out the battery and replace it on the Galaxy Nexus when you need to. With this one, you got to keep it on a charger. So if you're a road warrior, you travel a lot, you're in the office, keep a couple of chargers around, which I feel like I say that in every video. I actually do say that in every video, but it's very true. So I can't really lie there. So tools, let's load this up. Megabits per second. Let's change Wayne, New Jersey to Chester, South Carolina, and begin the test. HSPA plus 42 megabits per second capabilities over here on this device, and let's see how these load up on T-Mobile's HSPA plus network. So far, so good over here. Getting about 4.8 megabits per second. Again, this is during rush hour time in Charlotte, too. It's about 4 o'clock, so roughly rush hour time. And I've been pretty impressed with the speeds on both of these. 9.19 megabits over here. I've seen this go as high as 15 megabits per second in the Charlotte metro area, so it's definitely decent when all factors are considered in. So far, so good. Let's see what else we've got here. 0.88 megabits per second on the upload, not particularly the best in the world. 0.83 megabits per second on the upload over here. So again, uploads aren't that great, but you got 4.95 megabits per second over here, and then you got 9.19 megabits per second over here. So again, HSPA plus 21 megabits per second over here. So you do get HSPA plus significantly slower though than HSPA plus 42 megabits per second. So the theoretical peak here is higher than on the Galaxy Nexus. So that's something to keep in mind as well. This is something that I've noticed with HTC's UI, and this is just something that's kind of irritating with non-stock. Notice how the menu button on the Galaxy Nexus pops down here in the bottom with the back, the home, and the recent applications button. Well, obviously, you've got physical buttons down here, so it doesn't pop down like that. What it does is just kind of sits up here in the top like that. Now that's addressed, I believe, by a recent software update. I think HTC is rolling out a software update. I was trying to keep track of that earlier this week, and I want to say they're rolling out an update to fix that, and they are aware of it. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Camera, let's talk about that. 8 megapixel camera on the 1S, 5 megapixel camera on the Galaxy Nexus. They're both decent for taking shots. Take a look at this one I shot the other day with text. Definitely a decent image and easy to see. But I will say the edge on camera quality goes to the HTC 1S. It's a fantastic camera with a ton of different options. We'll bring in the Droid 4. I was doing a video on it earlier. So we'll see it autofocus in, and I can just take pictures back and forth as much as I like. So I'm shooting, let's say, a football game. I come in here and I pick the best picture. Let's say that's the best shot. Well, I can delete all the rest of the images. That's a great option. I absolutely love that. I love the ability to take stills while I'm shooting video too. So I'm recording a video right now, and you know what? I'm watching, let's say, my son or daughter's soccer game. Bam. Scored a goal. Bam. Somebody fell. Bam. Kid tripped and fell in the grass. Bam. Ha 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 ha. Well, no, I wouldn't say ha. That's mean. That's just mean. But you get the idea. You can record that and use it like that. So it's a great camera, and the 8 megapixel camera rivals the iPhone 4S and the iPhone 4's camera as well. Fantastic. I should say 4S because it's 8 megapixel camera, but it rivals that. So in my opinion, HTC, a combination of HTC, Samsung with the Galaxy S3, and the iPhone 4S are the best mobile cameras on the market right now. Absolutely fantastic. This one, honestly, not as good. It does take shots relatively decently. We'll actually bring in the Droid 4 for comparison. Focuses in relatively quickly. And overall, it looks decent. It's going to be decent. Now take a look at the Jelly Bean interface though here. Much like Windows Phone, you can scroll easily back and forth between the gallery and your active shot. So there are some nice improvements to the software. That said, it's not an impressive camera. So hopefully we'll get some devices soon that implement Jelly Bean's updates, maybe the Galaxy S3 for example, or the 1S, the 1X, that implement cool things like this, the software updates, with a much better camera. That said, you got your settings here. You can change stuff around. You can change the store location, the flash, the white balance, the exposure, and more. And then, of course, the buttons go away, though you don't really obtain screen real estate if you saw that, because they go away, but they've still got little dots there where you can easily click on them and access those. So it's not like you gain the screen real estate there. The only exception you have to that is when you're watching YouTube. So I'll bring up YouTube, for example, and get the Droid 3 out of the picture. This is a Dogfight. Can't keep it in there too long. Okay, let's load up Phone Dog. Phone Dog. Man, I can't spell. Jeez. Phone Dog. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a bad typer. It's very possible. Photon Q4G LTE unboxing, for example. Throw it over here into landscape mode, and you can see it does give you the full screen there, and then when you pause, it brings the buttons back. So you can take full advantage of the 4.65-inch display. Another thing I want to point out that's a feature in Jelly Bean that really makes this device just awesome is Google Now. Take a look at this, for example. It's much like Siri. I can come into Google Now. What's the weather in Charlotte, for example? Or I can say, Google Now. Wait, can't remember the actual. What's the weather like in Charlotte?
It's 83 degrees and mostly cloudy in Charlotte.
Or perhaps, when is the Democratic National Convention?
Democratic National Convention begins Monday, September 3rd, 2012, and ends Thursday, September 6th, 2012.
Should I come to the office during the Democratic National Convention? It's like, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't. Actually, I'm actually traveling for work. I'm in New York for the DNC. So, where is Homeland shot? Filmed in and around Charlotte. So you see it brings up the search. But in a case like weather, for example, what's the weather in Charlotte?
It's 83 degrees and mostly cloudy in Charlotte.
And then, of course, I can bring up the web results below that. This is a fantastic tool. They've done incredible with this. Love the cards. Love the way it looks. And then you'll get features like when you add stuff like, tell me about United Flight 1271.
United Airlines 1271 from Las Vegas to Newark is delayed and arrives at 3 hours 8 minutes.
And so it'll predict this. So let's say I'm in, an airport or something. It'll predict my flight. So it's going to give me updates on Flight 1271 all day long. But it's intended to be an intuitive search application, and it's absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite new features about Jelly Bean. Unfortunately, you don't get that in the 1S just yet. But hopefully when it gets upgraded to Jelly Bean, you will get that feature. Lastly, I want to point out this. Take a look at the contacts. We're going to bring up Bill Stevenson, for example, so you can see the differences between HTC's UI and stock Jelly Bean. So ice cream sandwich again over here. You got your back button, Google menu up in the top right-hand corner on both with your options. You got your call mobile, your text message shortcut. Then you got edit and ringtone, where HTC takes this a step further. You'll see the pictures there as well. We have what's called thread, updates, and gallery down here. And I love this because let's say Bill and I are regular business colleagues. We talk on a regular basis. We talk about life. We talk about business. I want to know when I last talked to Bill because I miss Bill. It's been a couple of days. I can see my call history with Bill, my email with Bill, though unfortunately the API doesn't work with Gmail yet, so it's got to be an account that's set up through the actual email application. And messages. So it's like, when did Bill send me that message about getting crazy drunk after work? And it's like messages. Oh, he told me that Tuesday night. I missed it. Why did I miss it? I imagine this would be what would be going through my head if Bill were a real person and he actually texted me that. But that would show up right here in messages. And then I've got my updates here as well. And then my gallery where I can see pictures that are tagged with Bill in them. So great personal information management. This is one area where I feel like even the stock versions of Ice Cream Sandwich and Jelly Bean are severely lacking. You got something awesome like Google Now. I'd love to see some sort of integration there with my personal information management stuff. That'd be fantastic. So it's a tough call like any other Dogfight. These are awesome devices, and even though the Galaxy Nexus is a little bit long in the tooth in terms of specs, there have been several devices released since. That said, it's awesome because of adding Jelly Bean and because it's the only device. I shouldn't say it's the only device. There are several devices now that have received Jelly Bean, but the only device that I can buy unlocked for $350 and throw it on my T-Mobile or AT&T account and get Jelly Bean right now. It's pretty cool. That said, the winner of the Dogfight, the HTC One S, because the feature kit here is much better. You get a dual-core S4 processor, you get a better, significantly better camera, build quality is a little bit better, so I should say significantly better. I love the metal, although the battery is non-removable, keep that in mind. And you get HSPA plus 42 megabits per second, so all around, it's a better option. And keep in mind, it's likely going to get Jelly Bean. So it's one of those things, specs will never change. This is always going to have the same display, the same camera. This is most likely going to get upgraded to Jelly Bean, so you'll be able to benefit from most of those features that we talked about on the Galaxy Nexus. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com. Keep it locked on the site. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Hit me up on Twitter, too. Let me know what you think of both of these devices. Does Jelly Bean trump the One S? Does the One S's features trump Jelly Bean? Are there not much of a difference between Ice Cream Sandwich and Jelly Bean? Love to hear from you. PhoneDog_Aaron on Twitter, Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. And stay tuned for our next giveaway. The greatest tech giveaway ever 2 is getting ready to start up. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.